It is true that the public holds many misconceptions about the reality of those who work in the entertainment side of the television business. The reason these misconceptions may exist is because those workers do many things behind the scenes that is hidden from the public. This presentation is going to address a couple of the commonly held misconceptions, as well as what it is really like to work in this field. The first misunderstanding that I would like to discuss is that this career is not all glamorous. The hours is the first point to touch on, because when choosing a career, the hours seem to be a big concern. So let's talk about those. Most of the people who work in the television business do not work a 9-to-5 shift. So if this is something that you're looking for, you might want to go in another direction. To name a few, the more common shifts are 3 a.m. to 11 a.m., 4 a.m. to 12 p.m., 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., as well as later nights and weekends. Many people believe that the host shift ends when they get off the air. But this is not true. Before they go on the air and after they get off the air, their schedule is filled with meetings. Meetings regarding content about the show itself, as well as making sure that they're taking the show in the next direction. Television broadcasters are always coming up with new ideas in order to show to the producers to create different segments. Their work does not end when their shift is over at their company either. The majority of people who work in this business bring their work home with them. And when they return home from working, they do things such as prep for segments that they're doing the next day, or conduct research for future segments. I traveled to Twin Cities Live and spoke with Elizabeth Reese, who is one of the hosts for this talk show, and she is fortunate enough to have a 9-to-5 job. Although, there are some days that are longer than others because she is expected to make appearances at certain events. And one of these events is the book club that their show hosts. Just a little bit ago, I mentioned that many people bring their work home with them, and Elizabeth is part of this portion. When she is at home, she does things in relation to her job before she heads into the station. And this includes going over and prepping for the segments that she will be doing that day. Those who work in the television business have very long days, rarely get breaks away from their work, and are always working on things in relation to their jobs. There is a lot of hard work and effort that goes into their positions, and they do not make as much as they would like to. However, and this is very crucial to keep in mind, the reason they continue to work in this profession is because they love what they do. So I just mentioned that many people do not make as much money as they would like to for everything that they do. Pay is an important aspect to touch on because everyone would like to know how much they can expect to make when they enter into their chosen career. Some television broadcasters do make a good sum of money, but they had to start from somewhere in order to make the amount that they do. Elizabeth informed me that when she entered into this career, the amount of money that people made was $19,000 a year. According to her, she said she made more at a department store selling shampoo in college than she did when she first became a reporter. There is a lot of hard work and dedication and time that goes into these positions, but know that it is possible in order to reach your desired salary. And again, if you love to and you enjoy working in the television business, all of your hard work that you put into it will be rewarding, and the pay will just be an added bonus. With going into this field, it is important that you do not place geological restrictions on where you would like to find a job. The reason for this is because the amount of money you make all depends on where you go and what the size of the market is. At a smaller market like Fargo Valley City, you will make far less than if you worked at a bigger market, like in the Twin Cities or LA. In the beginning, it will be very difficult, but if you can hang in there and keep working, keep moving up, and continue going to bigger markets and gain the experience that you need, it will all be worth it in the end. Just remember not to expect 6 figures when you first enter into this career, because that will not happen, and you will be setting yourself up for disappointment, which will not motivate you to work towards your goal. Now that I've touched on the hours and the pay of this profession, I would like to touch on the appearance aspect. Many movies and television shows portray the common misconception that those who work in the television business have a full hair and makeup team waiting for them in order to make sure that they look their best. Now, at some stations in Chicago, New York, and LA, they may still have those full hair and makeup teams, but in every other market, you have to do it yourself. So do not enter this career and expect to be pampered every day, because that will not happen. Each station has its own makeup room where the host is able to go into and beautify themselves before they go on air. Elizabeth has worked in the television business as a reporter, an anchor, and now a talk show host. And at every station that she has worked, she has had to do her own hair and makeup. If you're like me and you have no idea how to do hair, but you have a burning desire to work as a television broadcaster, I would encourage you to start learning how to do different hairstyles now to ensure that you look your best when you go on air. To start off my next point, which is the misconception of always being on camera, I have a question for you, and I would like you to answer either true or false. When you are working in the television business, whether that be an anchor, a reporter, or a talk show host, you must represent yourself well by being well-dressed and well-behaved anytime you go in public.
True.
True? The correct answer is actually false. Just because you work on TV, people realize that you are a normal person just like them. And this right here is another big misconception in the television world. Of course, you're not going to go out to public places and make a complete mess of yourself, but you're able to be yourself and do things that you would normally do. So do not act fake, just be yourself and always make sure you're shining a positive light on the company that you are employed with. Elizabeth stated that she does not let this misconception run her life. She admitted to wearing comfy clothes such as yoga pants and a sweatshirt when she runs her errands. She did suggest, though, that you create boundaries regarding what you do share and what you do not share on TV or in public. The only reason for this is because you want to make sure that you're keeping your personal life private. The viewers do not need to know everything about you or your life. And keep in mind that your boundaries will continue to change the more you work in this business. So speaking of representing the company, let's move on to the opinion aspect of this misconception. In the entertainment side of the television business, the shows tend to be more opinion-based. So you're able to share your opinion on air. And these opinions are shared on everyday things that everyone holds opinions on. And examples of these include different types of food and/or different trends that are popular. Along with topics that you can share your opinion on, come topics that you should refrain from sharing your opinion on. And anything in relation to politics and/or religion are things that you should not share your views on. And since you are able to share your opinion as a talk show host on air, you need to do so in a respectful manner and make sure you are stating that this is my personal opinion. There will be people out there who do not agree with your views or your beliefs, and they may feel the need to contact you and tell you what they think. Now, if this happens, just make sure that you hear them out and you reply respectfully, because you know that not everyone does share the same views as you. One thing to note, though, is if you choose to go the news route versus the entertainment route, you must always refrain from sharing your opinion at all times. Because when you're writing a story, you do not want to seem biased. And because of this, the reason they have to avoid sharing your opinions is because journalists have to abide by the journalism ethics. And if an article they write seems like they're veering towards one way, they may be deemed uncredible. Research is the last topic that I would like to touch on. If you don't like research, you should probably find another job, because there is a lot of reading and writing that goes into the show. Hosts are constantly reviewing their scripts and making changes to ensure that they look the way they want it to, as well as sound the way they want it to. As far as content, everyone is required to contribute some content ideas for the show. This is not just the producer's job. The team, which consists of the producers, the directors, the managers, the hosts, and other crew members, has late night meetings where they'll go into a conference room and they'll just pitch ideas. Along with those ideas, they'll pitch different ways or avenues they would like to take those. Now, hosts do not have a certain amount of content that they have to contribute to the show, but they are required to make some contributions when they're in those meetings. Sometimes, hosts will even produce their own segments or events. The book club example I provided earlier, that is actually something that Elizabeth worked with her producer on in order to make that event happen. Along with researching different topics and content that you would like the show to consist of, you must research your guests. The producer will usually brief the host and/or hosts on who the guest is and what they have footage and/or pictures of, but it is the host's responsibility to be able to ask them questions based on a certain topic. The questions that they ask their guests are not prepared for them. So the hosts then have to come up with the questions in the moment. And in order to do this, they have to prepare themselves beforehand, reviewing the information that they have been provided, as well as looking up more information on their own. It is possible to know too much about a guest, where you're just having them repeat information that you already know about them. So with this in mind, you want to keep a balance between knowing too little and knowing too much, because you want to be able to ask the questions that the audience members or the viewers are wondering. And if you know too much about a guest, you may miss out on those key questions and answers that they would like to know. There are not many guests that a show will not bring on, but the guest has to fit within the brand. For Twin Cities Live, their brand is food, fashion, and fun. So every guest that they bring on has to fit into at least one of those categories. And the reason for this is because the guests know what they're going to expect, and they watch the show for that reason. Also, fitting the viewers into the brand of the show helps make executive decisions easier, as well as helps keeping the show from going all over the place. In closing, I shined a light on two of the common misconceptions held about the television world. The first one being that it is not as glamorous as it seems. There is a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that the public is not aware about. And the second one, yes, you are on camera, but you're able to be yourself because people realize that you're not just a face on the television screen. The reality of being a television broadcaster has been intertwined in the points addressing the common misunderstandings by the general public. I hope this presentation gave you a better insight as to what it is like to work in this field, and if anything else, helped you see those who work as television broadcasters in a different light.